Hi, this is the Philosophical Angle program, and I am your host, Chris Angle. Along with me is my colleague and co-host, Rick Samuelson. Rick is a venture capitalist on the West Coast and graduated from Yale, and good to see you, Rick.
And you.
I'm the author of 4 books on philosophy, one of which is the Defining Ethics, Good and Evil, and these books can be seen at thephilosophicalangle.com. If you'd like to contact us and make comment about the program, give us an email at chrisangle1@gmail.com. And the purpose of the philosophical angle is to examine the nature of concepts being used in current media and secondarily use those definitions to understand the righteousness and ethical superiority of conservative positions. And this week we're going to talk about why liberals call conservatives stupid. Now, I heard this on the Rush Limbaugh show sometime in early June. He talked about the habits of it being the habit of the liberals, particularly progressive liberals, to call conservatives such epithets as stupid, dumb, ignorant, deplorable. We all know that. That's a famous one. And anyways, and so forth. You got to ask yourself, why do they do that? Why do they call us stupid? Why do they really think that we are stupid? As Hillary so eloquently pointed out in front of the TV one time when she was campaigning for the presidency of the United States. And it's kind of peculiar because conservatives do not do that to liberals. They don't use such epithets and pejorative adjectives. We don't call liberals stupid. We know they're pretty smart. So why is it? Why is it that it happens so one-sidedly? Well, in order to explain this phenomenon, we need to realize the assumptive difference between the two types of minds, the liberal mind and the conservative mind. And the liberal has the basic assumption that those who are not liberal-minded and not of progressive values are inherently bad in their nature, is not good. This can be contrasted with the conservatives' view that everybody in society has inherently a good nature. And if you take a step back and you look at this, you can see that both are right. Some people do have a good nature. There are a lot of people that have a good nature, and we know, but we know also that nobody's perfect. That everybody has flaws, and certainly Christianity points this out in its theology. All fall short of the glory of God, as it's pointed out in the New Testament. So everybody has sinned. There's nobody perfect out there. But yet we know that people have a good nature about them. But even if the progressive liberal thinks that the conservative nature, his mind, is no good, why would they call us stupid? Being bad and sinful or whatever really has nothing to do with stupidity. Well, the reason has to do with the left's thinking that because the nature of the mind of the conservative is bad, he has the wrong values. And when he's in society, when he's dealing with other people, he's not dealing with the right and correct values. The conservative believes, on the other hand, that the individual in society must be of paramount importance, and that the individual must have as much freedom as possible. And this enables him to produce the goods and services that he needs to make his life better, and is able to better provide for his family and better be able to proceed and make his life good for himself and for his family. The left, on the other hand, believes that the individual as an entity by himself is not so much important, but it is that society is paramount in importance. And within that importance, the greatest value in society is that all individuals are equally important, and that society's values must be evenly distributed to all individuals. So for the lib, I'll call it the puslib, the progressive utopian societal libs, society is first in importance, and as such, societal goodness is first in the liberal priorities. And therefore, in the liberal's mind, all individuals must be equally important in society, which will bring the greatest good to society, which is their objective. And so all individuals should enjoy freedom equally. Everybody in society should have equal opportunity. All individuals are equally important. Thus, when inequalities precipitate in society, when societal outcomes differentiate and somebody becomes unequal, it's of great concern to the liberal mind. But this still does not explain why liberals will call the conservative stupid. Well, the conservative, is called stupid because he cannot recognize the importance of everybody in society. And the liberal believes that the conservatives believe that the individual only is important. Thus, the liberal believes a conservative has no compassion for others. To them, that is, to them I mean the progressive utopian societal democrats, it is as if you, the conservative, cannot think of others in society, and it is because you are too selfish and rude and unenlightened and deplorable, and thus inversely correspondingly stupid. So it's not perfectly logical, but I think that's the nature of the liberal mind. When it thinks of values in society, the liberal mind is not logical, but predominantly emotional. So let's find out what Rick thinks about this subject. What do you think, Rick?
I think the potential election of Hillary Clinton and the failure to put her in office was a catastrophic moment for the progressive left for the following reason. They had a glimpse of permanently changing the institutions in this country, Congress, the Supreme Court, on down, such that it would have been almost impossible for conservative principles to have prevailed over any reasonable time frame. And when that failed, and this is why you're seeing such a severe reaction, the failure of the Alinsky type principles became apparent. So what's the thrust of Saul Alinsky's approach to political change? the ends justify the means, right?
Yeah.
And insulting your opposition is part and parcel of that. Whether those insults are justified, whether they're accurate or not, the usefulness of that in terms of persuading an uneducated electorate, or even an electorate that's apathetic, is demonstrated, right? So the fact that the progressive left seem to always be on the attack stems, I would argue, from the long-standing devotion of the progressive movement to those types of principles. And, you know, frankly, Barack Obama and that whole crew were part and parcel of that. They played a very clever game, appealing to the worst notions about what conservatism means and amplifying those. I think the next step going forward will be interesting, because what the liberals and the progressives never anticipated is that a conservative figure like Trump would arise, who breaks all the traditional notions of decorum that conservatives hold so dear. So the left, the progressives, Saul Alinsky, recognized very, very early on that conservatives are somewhat hidebound by tradition, and this notion that a sense of decorum needs to be preserved in all public debate. And it's put them in a position of weakness when it comes to public debate. And now here you have, how do you describe Trump? Is he a conservative figure? No. Is he identified with certain conservative principles? Yes. And you can name those easily. Anti-abortion, low taxes, growing business, growing the economy, deregulating, all those principles, appointing conservative justices. So he does subscribe to certain principles. What he does not subscribe to are traditional notions of decorum. And so in a sense, Trump, and you could call him clever, you could call him, you know, a kind of progressive mind himself, with all that implies, but he has found a way to turn these same techniques against the progressive, and this is why they're reacting so severely. The other thing that these insults do is they draw attention away from the fact that a huge portion of the progressive base, and the fastest growing portion, are uneducated people. Okay, so if you look at California's Exhibit A, California has one of the worst educational systems in the country. 47th, I think, ranked 47th. It's because of unskilled immigration, right? And this has happened. Its educational standards have fallen over the years as a consequence of mass unskilled immigration. Arguably, it is the most progressive state in the country. So here you have the irony of the most progressive state in the country pretending to be educated and yet having one of the poorest educational records, right? On a par with much poorer states per capita. The final thing I would offer is the heart and soul of the progressive movement lies with this unholy alliance between government and academia. And the notion of progressives, one of the most central notions of progressivism is centralized control. It's taught in the universities, it's embraced by government employees, it's almost the first commandment to them. And it's adhered to with a kind of religious ferocity. And so the academic wing of that controlling element of the progressive movement can't withstand the notion that they aren't more educated than the rest of us. Right? After all, they inhabit the universities. They must be the more educated of the American citizenry.
Right.
So there is this conceit at particularly the academic level, but also within government, that they deserve to rule. They are the elites. And I'm not the first to point this out. There have been many articles recently pointing out the failure of the elites to satisfy the needs of the average person across Europe, the United States, and elsewhere. Brazil, right? And the reaction that's followed has been severe, and I think, frankly, it's just beginning.
Yeah, totally agree, and thank you for that insight. And we'll see everybody else on the Philosophical Angle program next week.
Thank you.